Hey guys, it's been a little bit, but I'm glad to be back in here. Last time we did number 17 and 18, where God budded and chose Aaron's staff, made Aaron's family essentially, they're in charge of the church or the tabernacle. And then chapter 18 went into the duties of the priests, of the Levites. So today we're going to jump into chapter 19. Numbers. Uh, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "This is a requirement of the law that the Lord has commanded. Tell the Israelites to bring you a red heifer without defect or blemish that has never been under a yoke." So, a red heifer was pretty unusual animal for a sacrifice. And God, in the Bible, it typically doesn't mention the color, but like this one was very specific on it. Give it to Eleazar the priest. It is to be taken outside the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Then Eleazar the priest is to take some of its blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times towards the front of the tent of meeting. While he watches, the heifer is to be burned, its hide, flesh, and blood and intestines. The priest is to take some cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet wool and throw them onto the burning heifer. After that, the priest must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. He may then come into camp, but he will be ceremonially unclean till evening. The man who burns it must also wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he too will be unclean till evening. So we're going through the law right now, and you see every single time sin has to be paid for with death. At this time, it's like a red heifer, it's a super special one, but we're always paying for sin with death. A man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and put them in a ceremonially clean place outside the camp. They are to be kept by the Israelite community for use in the water of cleansing. It is for purification from sin. See? The man who gathers up the ashes of the heifer must also wash his clothes, and he too will be unclean till evening. This will be a lasting ordinance both for the Israelites and the foreigners residing among them. Whoever touches a human corpse will be unclean for 7 days. They must purify themselves with the water on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, then they will be clean. But if they do not purify themselves on the 3rd and 7th days, they will not be clean. If they fail to purify themselves after touching a human corpse, they defile the Lord's tabernacle. They must be cut off from Israel, because the water of cleansing has not been sprinkled on them. They are unclean, their uncleanliness remains on them. So God's pretty black and white here. If you don't follow his rules and follow his instructions, you're going to be cut off from the camp, because when people start bending, stretching the rules and the laws, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So if you don't follow the rules, you're cut off. This law applies when did I get that? When a person dies in a tent. Anyone who enters the tent and anyone who is in it will be unclean for 7 days, and every open container without a lid fastened on it will be unclean. So if someone dies in that tent, anyone out in the open who touches someone who has been killed with the sword, or someone who has died a natural death, or anyone who touches a human bone or a grave will be unclean for 7 days. For the unclean person, put some ashes from the burn purification offering, the heifer, right? The burn purification offering, into a jar and pour fresh water over them. Then a man who is ceremonially clean is to take some hyssop, dip it in the water, and sprinkle the tent and all the furnishings and the people who were there. You must also sprinkle anyone who has touched a human bone or a grave, or anyone who has been killed, or anyone who has died a natural death. The man who is clean is to sprinkle those who are unclean on the 3rd and 7th days, and on the 7th day he is to purify them. Those who are being cleansed must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and that evening they will be clean. But if those who are unclean do not purify themselves, they must be cut off from the community. There it is again. They've got to stay clean, got to follow the rules, and it's all about being the holy people. They're going into an unholy land, and they have to be the holy people. They can't be like gray area, half-ass about it. This is a lasting ordinance for them. The man who sprinkles the water of cleansing must also wash his clothes, and anyone who touches the water of cleansing will be unclean till evening. Anything that an unclean person touches becomes unclean, and anyone who cooties now, right? And anyone who touches it becomes unclean till evening. So they've got to stop the uncleanliness. They've got to wash themselves, and it just keeps everyone in this purification process all the time. There's a passage in Luke chapter 10, and I know we're jumping forward here, but just to kind of reference this whole like dead person cleanliness. And the passage, the priest in the parable of the Good Samaritan, they pass by on the other side of the road, okay? And if the man was dead, the priest putting temple rituals ahead of, so the priests were putting temple rituals ahead of compassion. This is kind of like the point of that in Luke 10, but that's why these were the old rituals of this. Let's do chapter 20. In the first month, the whole Israelite community arrived at the desert of Zin, and they stayed at Kadesh. There, Miriam died and was buried. Remember, that's Moses and Aaron's sister. So we're kind of seeing the older generation kind of go now of this movement of people, this exodus. Now there was no water for the community, and the people gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron. Again, right? Like every time things are bad, they blame them. They quarreled with Moses and said, "If only we had died when our brothers fell dead before the Lord. Why did you bring the Lord's community into this wilderness that we and our livestock should die here? Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to this terrible place? It has no grain, no figs, no grapevines, no pomegranates, and there is no water to drink." So Moses and Aaron went from the assembly to the entrance to the tent of meeting. Remember, that's the holy place. And they fell face down, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. The Lord said to Moses, "Take the staff, and you and your brother Aaron gather the assembly together." The Lord said, "Speak to that rock before their eyes, and it will pour out water. You will bring water out of the rock for the community so they and their livestock may drink." So this was like a famous Bible story. They've actually found the rock in the desert that looked like water poured out of at the time. So you can see it, you can look it up. It's really cool. So Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence just as he commanded him. He and Aaron gathered the assembly together in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, "Listen, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock?" Then Moses raised his arm and struck the rock twice with his staff. Remember, the Lord said, "Speak to the rock." So now it's hard to read, especially this way, but I feel like Moses was like, "Oh yeah, you guys are grumbling? Watch this." Bam, bam, and he hits it. But it's not as humiliating to smack a rock with a stick. But it is a little funky if you're going to walk up and start talking to this rock. And God said, "No, you go up and speak to the rock." But instead, Moses hit it. Water gushed out, and the community and their livestock drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust in me enough to honor me as holy in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this community into the land I gave them." So remember, Moses doesn't make it into the promised land. He leads them there, but this was something that was not, God didn't like this part, all right? Him and Aaron. He still took care of the people, but they didn't do it God's way. These were the waters of Meribah, where the Israelites quarreled with the Lord and where he was proved holy among them. So Meribah, it's like a play on words, and the meaning is like contention or quarreling or striving in Hebrew. So they were arguing there, and that's kind of why the name, that watering hole that. Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom. All right, so remember Jacob and Esau? Esau was like the great hunter, the one his father really loved. And so Isaac loved Esau. Jacob tricked him, stole his birthright. And Esau ended up going to the land of Edom, and he was never at peace ever after this, right? And he spent, the rest of his life with pagan wives and never at peace. So now they're going into this land. This is what your brother Israel. Oh, let me start over. Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom, saying, so here's the message. This is what your brother Israel says. Remember, Jacob was called Israel, the brother, right? Esau's brother. You know all about the hardships that have come on us. Our ancestors went down into Egypt, and we lived there many years. The Egyptians mistreated us and our ancestors. But when we cried out to the Lord, he heard our cry and sent an angel and brought us out of Egypt. Now we are here at Kadesh, a town on the edge of your territory. Please let us pass through your country. We will not go through any field or any vineyard or drink water from any well. We will travel along the King's Highway and not turn to the right or to the left until we have passed through your territory. But Edom answered, you may not pass. So he told him to kick rocks. You may not pass through here. If you try, we will march out and attack you with a sword. The Israelites replied, we will go along the main road, and if we or our livestock drink any of your water, we will pay for it. We only want to pass through on foot, nothing else. Please just let us pass through, is what they're asking. Again, they answered, you may not pass through. Edom told them to kick rocks. Then Edom came out against them with a large and powerful army. Since Edom refused to let them go through their territory, Israel turned away from them. So I guess they're not going that way, right? The whole Israelite community set out from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. At Mount Hor, near the border of Edom, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will not enter the land I gave the Israelites, because both of you rebelled against my command at the waters of Meribah. Remember how they were supposed to talk to the rock, and they didn't do it God's way, did it their way. So they're not going in. And he tells Moses, get Aaron and his son Eleazar and take them up to Mount Hor. That's Hor. Remove Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar, for Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will die there. Moses did as the Lord commanded. They went up. Wouldn't that be crazy? Like God's like, hey, your brother's going to die today, and we're going to hand over the priesthood to your nephew. And you just got to listen. Okay, Lord, you brought us this far. Imagine being Aaron. Like, oh crap, I'm dying today. Moses removed Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar. And Aaron died there on top of the mountain. Then Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. And when the whole community learned that Aaron had died, all the Israelites mourned for him for 30 days. So that is 19 to 20, you guys. So Moses' brother and sister are gone. Eleazar is now in charge of the church. And we are kind of knowing there's some people in here that aren't going to make it to the promised land. Moses is one of them, but we're getting to it. And the younger generation, the ones who are kind of like born or were kids when they started this, are now going to only know leaning on the Lord, following that cloud pillar of fire. So they're going to be more faithful and not looking to the old ways. Anyway, love you guys. Have a great weekend, and Merry Christmas.